Welcome back to STL TV Live. I'm Sarah Thompson. Mark Shook is a retired rabbi who has just released his debut novel, a fact-based thriller that combines romance, intrigue, betrayal, and bloodshed. That's a lot. Thank you for being here.
It's a lot, and I hate to say it, but it was a lot of fun at the same time.
It sounds like a lot of fun. Tell me about the Ezra Scroll. This is your first book.
My first book, but it's based on a lifetime of teaching in the area of biblical studies and origins of the Bible, things like that. And so I wanted to incorporate the things that I had run across and the things that intrigued me, and more importantly, the questions that my students had that really couldn't be answered. There were no videotapes in the time of the Bible. There were no TV stations. So what ends up is that you try to explain the questions in what come to be plausible ways, and the best way to do that is fiction.
Okay, so tell me, it's fiction, and there's obviously fact involved in it, but tell me just a bit about the story.
The story is that a United States Marine discovers a cache of sacred documents below a building in the Iraqi town of Fallujah. Not many people are aware of the fact that this particular town, which had a different name, I'll leave that for the novel, this particular town, Fallujah, had a large Jewish population going back to 600 BCE, before the Common Era, and that Jewish population was responsible for some of the most important books in Jewish tradition. Well, we take that story and what he discovers in that repository of sacred books, and somehow he manages to get this scroll out of Iraq while he's serving with the United States military, and he gets it to Israel, gets it to the land of Israel, the state of Israel, and they have an opportunity to examine the scroll and discover that the scroll is in fact a code.
Okay, so you start all the way BC, go up to present day. How do you, in your mind, weave that all together?
It goes back and forth. Half the book is a story about the ancient world, and the other half of the story is what takes place in the modern world as they try to discover what the meaning of the scroll is.
So when I talk to authors a lot, there is this whole fact versus, with nonfiction and fiction, but specifically with fiction, there's always this element of truth. There's always the elements of fact. Was this always part of the plan? I mean, how did you work it all together?
Well, it was always part of the plan, because I think students can grasp things if you put it in a fictional context. They'll spend more time reading it than they would if it's just the dry facts. I'm thinking of novels like Exodus, which in a way introduced a lot of people for the first time to what had happened to the Jewish community during the Holocaust. So not that this is in any way comparable to Exodus, but I thought it would be an entertaining way of conveying information, actual information about what we know and what we don't know. For readers, they can read the book and then go to the back of the book, and I try to describe what's real and what's not in the book, so they can separate fact and fiction. If they go to the back, it'll kind of spoil it.
Right, so we don't want people to read. Don't start with the back. Start with the first. And when you talk about readers, I mean, who do you really? You're passed as a rabbi. Is this solely targeted to?
I don't want this to sound like it's egotistical or anything else like that. But my goal was to make this the Jewish version of the Da Vinci Code. That is to do in a Jewish context what the Da Vinci Code had done to the early church. And I hope that I've somewhat accomplished that. It will be controversial. I've done some controversial things in the story that I'd rather not reveal now.
Okay.
In terms of biblical characters who are not the nice people that we thought they were, just to make it intriguing. And when someone says, "Why did you do that?" I said, because I wanted to keep the person reading. I wanted to keep the reader reading. Anyone who likes a thriller, anyone who enjoyed the Da Vinci Code, I'm hoping will give this a try.
So is the next project a screenplay, perhaps?
I hope so. That would be wonderful. But actually, the sequel to this book is already in process. So. And
I want to, before we wrap up, talking about your writing and obviously your career and your passion, and before being a rabbi. I mean, when did you come up with this idea? When was this the concept of this? When did it strike you?
That's a great question, and I can't pinpoint it. I know that I actually can pinpoint it. I was preparing for a class, and I was frustrated that I couldn't convey this information in a way that people would pay attention. I mean, people would, their eyes glaze over, and they, So I thought, well, maybe I should do this as a novel, and it clicked. It just instantly clicked, and it was so interesting to me. I had so much fun doing this. It was amazing.
No, well, it sounds really, I like the way that you've sort of positioned it, you know, sort of the Jewish version of the Da Vinci Code. That's a good
Should
point.
only be that, that's successful.
No, well, there's the information right there on the screen for you. It's EzraScroll.com. That's the website where you can go get some more information on the book. You can figure out how to order it and kind of read, not all the details,
But get an idea
overview.
what the book's about.
Absolutely. No, it sounds interesting. While you're speaking, I really do see this on the big screen, but people should read it first.
I even, when I want to occupy myself, I even try to figure out who the stars would be. Who would star in this movie
Well, make sure you do the casting here. But thank you. It sounds fascinating. Congratulations.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to present it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your first book.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll be back with more STL TV Live right after this.